Hello, change makers and social saviors, social innovators all around the world. We welcome you to yet another amazing edition of the Social Impact Webinar. We are super excited about this month's topic, which is titled Community Engagement Collaborating for Change. Just before we delve right into today's insightful webinar, we would love to meet each of our social innovators, members of our community members, members of our community, joining us from all parts of the world, any part of Africa, any part of Nigeria. So just type in the comment section where you're joining us from. We'd love to meet you. Let us know your name, what you do, and what your expectations are for today's webinar. We already have in the studio with us, Dr. Michael Sunbola is super ready for us, and we'll definitely just get right into this, the first segment of the webinar, which will speak to him running us through an understanding of what it takes and how we could collaborate for change. And the second part of tonight's or today's webinar, rather, we'll be speaking to a question and answer session where we get to ask some awesome questions, get to ask Dr. Michael some awesome questions, and he definitely will be responding to those questions. So again, I want to encourage our social innovators and change makers tuned in this morning or this afternoon or wherever you tuned in from, whether it could be nighttime, it could be afternoon, it could be morning, wherever you're tuned in from. I would encourage you to please just copy the link and share across your sphere of influence. So put it up on your WhatsApp status, put it up on your IG, put it up on your Facebook stories. Also, just do a post about it, put it up on LinkedIn, have as many of your members or people within your influence or sphere join today's webinar. So we're super excited. So definitely type in the comment section. Let us meet each of you, your name, the organization you're representing, and what your expectations are for today's webinar. I would excitedly read some comments the moment I see them. So without further ado, would move on quickly to take on our guest speaker. We're super excited to have such a well-rounded speaker with us. And just before it takes on the first part of today's webinar, we would just want each of you to meet him. And I would just take out some time to share more about Dr. Michael Sunbola. Dr. Michael Sunbola is an award-winning social entrepreneur, an Obama leader, a seasoned food system activist, a community mobilizer, SDGs Advocate, legal practitioner, and founder of Lagos Food Bank Initiative, the largest hunger relief nonprofit in Nigeria. He is a foremost thought leader in community mobilization, social entrepreneurship, volunteering, leadership, community development, social impact, and advocacy. Michael is also a Gratitude Network Fellow, Perennial Fellow, SIP Fellow, and French African Foundation Laureate. He currently serves on the technical working group for the implementation of the National Food Systems Transformation for Nigeria. He has been profiled by Forbes Magazine, Redrick Public Relations, and national newspapers as one of Nigeria's young social entrepreneurs. Through his work, Michael has raised almost $2 million in cash and food alongside 25,000 volunteers at the initiative to provide nutrition intervention, hunger relief, dietary counseling, and job placement to over 2 million vulnerable women and children across different underserved and far-to-reach communities within and outside Lagos. His work has gained wide recognition both locally and internationally, and he's been featured on Al Jazeera, Reuters, BBC, CGTN Africa, and recently got recognized by World Health Organization and United Nations. Michael is committed to work that focuses on nutrition, family farming, education, and community mobilization as part of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. He has collaborated with NGOs and civil society organizations such as Global Citizens, Dev Sex Stories, Access Bank, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, World Connect US, and more. As part of his initiative to support food insecure families, he piloted a family farming program to improve women's contribution to household agriculture and gender equality. This program has been scaled to reach over 500 vulnerable women in Lagos. It strategically partnered with multinationals like Unilever PLC, Global Food Banking Network, Archer Daniels Midland, and Feminich Nigeria to contribute to food systems transformation in Nigeria, expand food bank programs, impact more beneficiaries, and equip more women on self-sustenance practices and urban farming. Through Michael's leadership, the organization has maintained steady growth for over 7 years and has built a sustainable reputation and structure that can take it through the next decade and better serve the vulnerable, helping them move one step closer to a hungry-free Lagos. So let's warmly welcome our quintessential speaker, Dr. Michael Sunbola. Dr. Michael, you're most welcome.
Tony, thank you so much for the introduction. Like I didn't know is that long. It's really such a delight to be here, and
Thank you.
I look forward to a very insightful conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Michael. So we'll move on to the first part of this webinar, which will have you just, taking us through your presentation, and thereafter we'll get into the Q&A session where we get to answer other very insightful questions. All right. So it's your show for now. So you have the floor.
Okay. Sorry, just a quick one. Okay, perfect. Okay, so once again, I'm really very much delighted to be speaking on this topic I'm very much passionate about, and I appreciate the efforts put into organizing this webinar, and I must say that kudos to all the organizers. So without much ado, I would move straight into the topic for today, which is community engagement and community engagement collaborating for change. Okay. So the agenda is, this presentation, I won't be saying so much. I think I would really have the opportunity to talk more during the Q&A. I'll just go straight to what this is about the Lagos Food Bank, our programs, the program we run, and how we are able to collaborate for change. Why do we need to collaborate for change, and how does LFBI collaborate for change, then our impact. So basically, I'll be tying this to the topic and how we've been able to do what we've been able to do in the last 7 years. So the Lagos Food Bank, just a bit about us. We're a non-profit, we're a nutrition-focused organization. We are committed to fighting hunger, reducing food waste, and solving the problem of malnutrition through targeted programs that seek to improve the nutrition of our growing population, pregnant women and children, through other self-sustenance programs, right? Okay. So our vision, we have a simple vision. The vision is to be the leading domestic hunger relief organization that provide access to sufficient and nutritious food for our teeming population. And of course, to achieve this, we have divided our mission into two parts. So the first part is, of course, we want to be on the front line of those assisting those struggling with hunger. And want to do this by having different, branches across, across the nation, basically. And then we also want to do this with other organizations that share similar objectives with us. So next slide. Okay, so far we have a designated or a map of areas that we serve through our programs. So these are the areas. I won't want to bore you with the lists of these areas, but we have footprints in several parts of Nigeria and then and Lagos specifically. Okay. And then we run 8 programs, and the first is the temporary emergency food assistance program, the Nume Plan program, school feeding program, which is Edu Food program, the family farming program, the needs program, the food bank network, job placement, and of course, cloth banking Nigeria. And you can see it's a multi-dimensional approach to having to solve the problem we are addressing as society. Go ahead, please. Okay, so far, I think we've done 2 million beneficiaries. Go back a bit, please. Go back. Back. Okay, so we've done 2 million beneficiaries in more than at least 160 communities since inception of our intervention. And then you can move forward. And then the next part is, how do we then collaborate for change? So community engagement is a deliberate process of working to identify and understand, address key issues, basically. And, just like I've mentioned, we are very much focused on, collaboration to achieve what we're able to achieve, reach out to the most vulnerable, and ensure to empower them to also grow their own food. So let's move to the next slide. So the question that is most pertinent at this point now is, we've been talking about collaboration and, why do we need to collaborate? The work we are doing is multifaceted. It's a very it's a very laborious type of work. Anything that involves you doing a community work, engaging with a lot of people. So apparently, it's not what you can do all by yourself, right? You have to bring a whole lot of people on board. A lot of stakeholders, must be brought on board to achieve the change that we need to achieve, and then we do this through, for us, our core values, which is the commitment, compassion, community, contribution, and connection. So we call it the 5 C's in food bank, and these core values are what kind of drive us. First, you must be committed to what you are doing. So we feel that sense of commitment. Something must drive you. Either for us, it's the compassion. We have this compassion for the most vulnerable, and then for people around us, for the community. That is a major driving factor. And then we work with the community. They are a huge stakeholder of our intervention, and then contribution from different aspects, volunteers, partners, and the rest of it. So those are the core values that drive us. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so how does Lagos Food Bank, how do we collaborate for change? So let's move to the next slide. So we collaborate for change through different aspects, and I'll be running you through this, steps that we have, or the steps that we put in place to collaborate for change. First is we work with the grassroots. And for us, I'm going to take maybe one of our programs, which is the nutrition program, for instance. This program, helps to improve the nutrition of pregnant women and children, especially those of them who don't have access to nutritious meal during breastfeeding and pregnancy. And then we know that we needed to work with primary healthcare centers, for instance, to identify this vulnerable population. The first place, an average low-income pregnant woman will go to is the primary healthcare center. And we know that for us to be able to get the number of people or children who are malnourished, it must come through the PHCs. So we work with them, we collaborated with them at that grassroots level. And as we speak today, we're working with almost all the PHCs around Lagos, and they signpost children who are malnourished to the Lagos Food Bank. And we put them on a plan, on a nutritious meal plan for like 2 months, 3 months, and then they grow to become more nutritious, more nourished rather. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so just to put perspective to a lot of the English I've been speaking, you can see, this picture shows the nutritious, the nutrition plan program rather, and you can see those babies. You can see our dietitians at the edge, the picture at the edge here, attending to them. You can see us at the PHCs taking pictures with the officers, the primary healthcare officers, and these are the mothers coming to the food bank to collect food. when they come for the appointment. The appointment is sometimes most of the time 2 times, in a month, or sometimes 3 times a month. So they come in to pick up food and the rest of it. So this is just a picture that shows that. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so our relationship with community leaders. So there's another program we run. This program is what a whole lot of people know us for. This program is what we call the temporary emergency or temporary food assistance program. So our approach is both the long-term and short-term approach to food security. So the short-term approach for us is we provide that immediate meal that you can use, at least for you to have hope for the next day. So this program involves us going into community, registering members of the community, vulnerable people. And there's no way we could have done this without first satisfying the rudiments of community entry. So in entering a community, of course, you have to work with different stakeholders, the community leaders, the youth leaders, the King of Boys, and the rest of them. They are all important stakeholders in the implementation of this type of community-driven projects. The fact is that the people that need the assistance are in the community, right? And there are a set of people who you must pass through. You have to give them the regard, and all of them are considered as relevant stakeholders. So they are engaged and they are carried along. Their input is also taken into consideration. And there are times that they help us identify the most vulnerable in their communities, right? And then we work with them. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so these are pictures of the extent of work we do in these communities. You can see pre-registration going on, doing the homework, and when doing this homework, registering these vulnerable beneficiaries, we, like I said, work with community leaders, and then we work with, of course, our lead volunteers, so our volunteers who assist us register these beneficiaries, and then get them ready for food distribution, for a very well organized food distribution program. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so another aspect of collaboration for us is that we have established connections with communities. We've identified vulnerable people. We've done all of that. And then we need to work with funding. Like we need funding to, of course, put into action what we've been able to identify, right? So, and we've noticed a gap. The gap we've noticed here is that most corporate organizations really do not have that much time to go into community and start identifying vulnerable people. So we fill that gap and we tell them that, you know what, we have what you need. We can organize all of these things for you. All you have to do is give us the funds. Let's help you implement. And you just come in on that day, do a bit of work, and then you're also able to achieve your goal, right? So we are able to get funding, and then we're also able to provide service and solve problem for an organization that wants to organize a CSR project and probably don't know how to go about it and stuff. So so you can see the connection, the collaboration, and then we are not just asking, but we're also offering value to them to help them achieve their CSR objective. Let's move to the next slide. Thank you. So just a bit of more of the number of organizations we worked with. I think this was called from our recently published annual report. These were the organizations we worked with in the fiscal year 2022. And corporate organizations who just want to do great work, want to impact their community, and decided to work through the Lagos Food Bank to achieve this. So working with corporate organizations is another form of collaboration for change that we're talking about. Okay. So, and then when we work with these organizations, we have to give a face to it, in the sense that, okay, this is the organization that is doing this impact, right? So we have their what's it called? Their stickers on their boxes. We brand everything and get it ready for them to come distribute. So, and then we'll also work with our volunteers to, and then their staff as well. Engagement is there for their staff, employee engagement, and a lot of impact is being driven while we're solving that same problem of food insecurity in the community. So everything is being achieved, at different levels, like all goals and objectives are being achieved, right? So, yeah, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so these are still pictures of interventions. We've worked with different organizations, and then collaboration, of course, at the policy level. There are times that we have to lend our voice to, making some policy changes. Everything doesn't have to be on the ground. Like some things have to be done. Influence have to be. We have to influence policies and see what changes we can drive at at the policy level. So, of course, for us in our own case, we want to drive more donations for corporates, for non-profit organizations in Nigeria, like especially those who are into, maybe interventions for food relief and hunger relief and nutrition and the rest of it. So we see that a whole lot of food go to waste, and how can we address policies that can curb food waste and also encourage donations through maybe tax reliefs and all of that for individuals and corporate bodies to encourage more non-profit organizations to raise funds to do this work that we do. We notice that in this part of the world, Nigeria, non-profits run this race all by themselves, whereas in other climes, there are enabling laws and policies that encourage people to donate to them. So we've been able to work with Atlas, food and law policy of Harvard Law School, to make policy statements in this regard, and we are hoping to see some changes in the nearest, future. Thank you. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so we also work with other nonprofit organizations, like I said earlier, it's a kind of intervention that can be done all by ourselves. Like we have to work with different organizations. So we established a food bank network Nigeria that work with mainly non-profit organizations that are also working to nourish their communities. And then we've been able to partner with 150 non-profit organizations who also help us achieve that same goal. There are a lot of places we cannot reach. To avoid burnouts, we need to understand, we actually understood the fact that we couldn't do it all by ourselves. And then we are reaching areas now that we couldn't have imagined to reach, working with credible nonprofit organizations who collect food from our warehouse and then send us reports, and their impact becomes our impact. And then we achieve the same goal at the end of the day, and they also achieve their own goal as well. So this is what the collaboration with nonprofit organizations is about for us. Okay, so these are pictures to that shows how we work with nonprofit organizations. You can see different when they come in to pick up food at the warehouse, and then yeah, these are just pictures that put that into perspective. And then we also do a bit of training and share what our success stories, how we've been able to build resilience and sustainability. So the last picture here shows how we were giving the training and then have them seated to listen to us and what has worked for us, what hasn't worked. Okay. And then more pictures here of nonprofit organizations at the food bank coming to pick up food. So the next one here is collaboration through volunteer engagement. If you've noticed something about the Lagos Food Bank, we work with volunteers from the scratch or from the inception of our initiative. We know that a key stakeholder in our intervention to serve our community is volunteers. So we started building that community from the beginning, and then of course we started from 16 volunteers. The first year we were able to grow it up to 200, and now we have 24,000 plus that we work with at part time. So, and of course, they are able to also have a sense of fulfillment in what we are doing, and they are also engaged. So, they are key stakeholders, because there is a difference between having the funds, having the resources, and then you don't have hands to help you achieve that goal. So, volunteers are key stakeholders in collaborating for change. So these are volunteers working, at the warehouse. When we have a lot of boxes to pack, we have school feeding programs to do. So these are pictures of volunteers serving school meals, pictures of volunteers working at the food bank warehouse, and then some of them in the community serving vulnerable families. Let's move on. Okay, so this slide is here to just give a full picture of what our volunteer growth has been. From 2016, 216, 2017, 1,516, you can see the progression. And every year there is a growth in the number of volunteers. So this was taken out from the 2022 annual report. So as at then, it was 222,000. And then we've grown, of course, in the last 6 months to 24,000. Okay. So these are pictures of volunteers as well, and then we also give them certificates, um, uh, certificates and letter of reference. We also give back in a way to ensure that the time they give is being much valued and recorded, so that when references are required, they are given as such as well. So let's move on. So another level of collaboration is at the multilateral level, working with development partners. So we work with the UAE Aid, the Global Food Banking Network, the Australian Aid, in this, and for us, it's, we take, as we grow in our community intervention and the impact we make, we understand that, yes, we have to work with, of course, bigger multilateral organizations in order for us to expand our reach. And this has also been helpful. So different organizations at different stages, and a whole lot of this I'll be able to speak to maybe during the Q&A session. I thank you so much for your time, and I thank you for listening so far.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. That was very insightful. I love how very pragmatic the presentation session was, working us through the different levels of collaboration, starting off with the grassroots levels, and of course, moving that upwards to the multilateral partnerships with international organizations. So that was just brilliantly and brilliantly shared, and we
Thank you.
thank you for the great insights shared with us. I love how again you highlighted the power of policy. Collaboration is not just at the level of interacting with the different stakeholders at the community level or grassroots levels or at the NGO levels, but also it's critical that we take into cognizance the power of policy making. And I love that you emphasized that point, that collaboration is also very critical at the level of policy. So thank you so much, Dr. Michael.
Very well.
So all right, so quickly, just of course, moving on quickly to the Q&A. I would, of course, I'm seeing a lot of great comments from our participants in the comment section. So I want to encourage them to also share in the comment section, encourage each of our chain makers, all of our social innovators joining us from all parts of the world to just type in your questions in the comment section. We already have curated questions that I will be asking Dr. Michael. But of course, if you have any insightful question that you want Dr. Michael to provide answers to, please pop it up in the comment section and we will take that. So my first question, Dr. Michael, will be around the fact that I love the fact that you guys collaborate across multi levels, right? And a lot of social enterprises and NGO leaders, in a bid to effect change or also build sustainable impact, are seeking opportunities like this to effectively maximize their community members and also collaborate with other organizations. So I know you have walked us through how you have done this. Could you just share maybe a story of how you started off from the scratch? Because Lagos Food Bank overnight didn't become what it has become today, having and attracting or having a pool of over 24,000 volunteers. So how did you practically grow that volunteer base all the way from 0 to 25,000? Why did people decide to say, hey, we want to we believe in this mission, we believe in this vision, and we want to partner with the Lagos Food Bank? What was different? What did you do differently? And how can other social enterprises and NGO leaders also leverage these lessons to also collaborate with community members and other organizations?
Yeah, thank you very much, Toyin. So for us, the first part of the question I'll pick is how did you even start from the scratch in the first place? What was food bank didn't just grow to become what it is. Um, so for me, I'd always wanted to. Um, I like doing things big. I just want to big. It was this idea. Everybody wants to do things big, But the thing is, when the food bank started, we got incorporated in 2015, and I was waiting for some big funds to just come in so that we can just launch the big way. Um, and then the funds weren't coming, So I stumbled across, this book by Reverend Sam Adeyemi, Start with What You Have, and then I read it was apt, it was timely, and I said, you know what, let me just start with what I have, because it doesn't seem like the funds were going to come the way I wanted it. So it was a space, from in a family property, and which of course my office was at the time, and the backspace we just let's just and then put in the savings, and then the work started. So there's always something that you have, at any level you have that you can start with. That's the message here. So, and then in terms of volunteers, right? Um, we built the community from 16 family and friends, and then we um, we did the first food distribution, and then collected everybody's email. And something else told me at that point that, see, this energy, you can see it is palpable. Would you want to replicate this? Don't, people want to, be involved in something that can actually get them engaged. And like, so the plan we had before was, let's just do this like maybe quarterly. And then I felt that no, the energy might dissipate. Let's quickly run this the second month. So we did the second one, and then we called the same set of people. The same set of people invited more people, and then it became a monthly thing. Then when we started, right?
Yeah.
And then every volunteer, then there was a level of certainty. It was the last Saturday of every month, so it was fixed. There was no need for us to fix date anymore. So people were able to plan, and then the community started growing. So they know that last Saturday we're coming to, and luckily for us, that was also the time that the government, stopped the environmental thing, environmental sanitation. So that kind of helped as well. So it started like that. So the main point I want to draw from here is that um, there's a culture of volunteering around here, contrary to what a lot of people think, that it's just very more in the Western world. But what young people want is that they want to be engaged, they want to be involved, and then they want to see that the vision and mission they are part of, they can identify with it, they can see through it, and then some of our volunteers as well also want to they also know that okay, this organization is transparent. So it was one of the things we made clear from the word go that we are transparent. So to join us, some people want to do their research before they even join any organization. If there's
Yes.
any sense of something that is not clear, they don't want to be part of it, right? So, and that is key: engagement, transparency,
Yes.
and of course the work itself, the core of what they work. And then volunteers draw energy from you as well. They want to see that you have, they can the energy they have can be more than what you have, so they draw that energy from you as the visionaire. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Very powerful insight shared. I love how you highlighted the power of starting with what you have and starting where you are. And that's what you literally did. You didn't despise the little that you had in 2015. You even started out with family and friends, literally, because you didn't even have external people believing in the vision first. You just started with those you were surrounded with, and you ran with the vision. And that is just so inspiring. And I love how, again, you quickly caught when you started the initiative and began to attract people to volunteer with the work. You instantly infused a system, right? And it was that system that sort of sustained it. So that's, for me, that was the critical lesson. You systemize it instantly. If you had not systemized or created a structure, a lot of people would have lost interest, and they would just feel, okay, they will have been disconnected. But in your regard, when people knew that, okay, definitively they can come in every Saturday, and each month they get to participate with the work that is being done, they could just structure it and say, okay, if I can't make it this month, next month I'll join. So that
Exactly.
system really enabled you to scale as an organization, and that is also very, very inspiring. Thank you
Very
so
well.
much, Dr. Michael. So riding on this insight that you've shared, it's taking me now to a question that speaks to how to collaborate for sustainable partnerships. I can see that with your very inspiring and highly transformative work at Lagos Food Bank, you have collaborated with corporate organizations, and you walked us through that system, during the presentation, on how you get to collaborate with corporate organizations and even collaborate with international development agencies. So I wanted to just speak to us in greater detail. How can we collaborate for sustainable partnerships, with corporate organizations and international organizations, and share with us practical examples, drawing from your own story.
Okay, so you see, the point is that we are all in this country together. So there's nothing I'm going to say, and then we are all in this space, right? That
Yes,
might be totally different from what we've experienced before.
very true.
So the thing is that in collaborating for change, maybe picking the focusing on corporate organizations, right? Um, if you look at the trajectory of the Lagos Food Bank, and we have the records there, our 2016 annual report is there. What we didn't get at first was corporate organizations. They were not coming. They were not forthcoming. In fact, they were not in sight. So we worked with people like individuals who just made their contributions. So we started
Contributions.
building from there. So, and I believe in having a network, which eventually becomes your networks,
Beautiful.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we had people who were volunteers at the time who didn't have job or got job at some point and became a mouthpiece for us in their
Hmm.
organizations who
Yes.
made references. So everything is in different level. It was something that was built over time, right? So today we have different people in different places speaking for us, putting a word in for us, right? And then when we bring what's it called now? When we send our proposals, is either we are having someone who can assist us, push it forward or
Push it
something,
forward.
or some organizations, corporate organizations also take time to observe. They can observe
Hmm.
for as much as 1 year, 2 years, and they say, oh, we've been following your work. Now we want to be part of it.
Part of it.
So if there isn't a sense of consistency and continuity, saying that yes, there is this has come to stay, and there is brands are very cautious, right? An
Yes.
individual can immediately jump into something, nothing much to lose. But a
Very
corporate
true.
organization, they are very cautious. They want to see, like, can we associate with this brand? What have they
Yeah.
done? How what could be the ripple effect and all of that before? So there's a thought through process for most of them. So consistency is key in driving these corporate organizations, and then saying that there's a track record of interventions you've done, and then
Done.
then they come on board. And there's a part of validation as well. So the
Yes.
validation aspect is that you've worked with company A, company B, company C. Company
Hmm.
G wants to come on board, and they are seeing that you've worked with company A, B, and C. So there's a form of validation, and there's that validation helps to kind of increase that chances of getting something to do with the next company and who wants to do, and there's enough track record to show for it. So when you say practical examples now, I'm trying to see how this come into perspective now. We now, what we see is organizations reach out to us, and we also reach out to organizations. So it's now both on both ends,
Yes.
and because of course they want to do something, and they are looking for a platform through which they can do it, and it's as
Yes.
simple as that, basically. So our work has to be out there for them to see,
Yes.
and
To
then
see.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love, how you highlighted two critical C's, which is the power of consistency and the power of continuity, and that the fact that brands are actually watching, they're observing. So you must remain consistent, even when you maybe apply or you send out a proposal for partnership or funding. Even when you face rejection, it doesn't mean that they may still not be interested subsequently. So it just requires you showing up, being consistent with the work. And definitely, once they see that this brand is a solid brand and their values align with their values, definitely there would then be that um, collaborative efforts to work with your brand. So I love how you just shared those insights. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. So this takes me to my next question. So I know that you guys definitely work with a volunteer engagement model, which you have shared with us, how you engage with your volunteers, and also consistently have how you have consistently grown your volunteer network in the last 7 years. The question then is, how do you drive monitoring and evaluation of your impact across these different levels, across the level of engaging with volunteers, internal stakeholders, and external stakeholders? How have you driven more effective monitoring and evaluation efforts?
Okay, so monitoring and evaluation, of course, is at the heart of every social enterprise, non-profit organization. Is an area that is is another gamut of this thing
Yes,
entirely. So, but for us, what we've done is we try as much as possible to track our impacts in a way to communicate, of course, communicate our impact. People want to see the numbers, organization want to see the numbers. We can't just keep working. We need to be able to communicate exactly what we are doing
exactly.
in real terms, right? And then impacts are qualitative, they are quantitative, and there are some that
Quantitative.
you have
Yeah.
to you have to also communicate with just pictures, right? Pictures tell a whole lot of stories, and
Stories.
the impact can be
Very
obvious. For
powerful.
instance, our nutrition program, we just snap the picture when the child comes enrolled, and then 2 months after, what the child looks like. So we put the picture side by side. We don't need
Side by
plenty
side.
stories. Like, you can see the weight gain and how the child looks more nourished. So, and then and these are what we intentionally put out there for people to see.
To see.
And at the same time, we also are, of course, cautious as well in ensuring that we are mindful of the beneficiaries as well, because of course their situation, they are vulnerable, but we are able to balance communicating our impact because we need the funds to continue the work. So
Yeah.
for volunteers, yeah, we do reporting yearly, annual reports. No matter the amount of work we are doing, we all have to grind everything to a halt and then do our annual reports in, between the month of January. We don't get to do much work in January. So that helps us to do a whole lot of tracking of reporting numbers, and then we put everything together in a document. We share it with our stakeholders, our beneficiaries, and just to give an example to this, nobody expected the lockdown to happen the way it did in March of 2020, and we just published our annual report at that time. Um, and organizations that wanted to donate, like they wanted something more recent. They just say, okay, can you share your financials? Can you share your annual reports? Fortunately for us, we are done. We just published it, so we shared it with them. And some of them didn't even bother to come and check our office or anything. They just made their donations. They were fine with the records. So we also have to be prepared for some of this opportunity. Like, there's another level of preparedness, and which of course might not be urgent at the time, but important. And then you put
Yes.
everything together and communicate the impact. So in tracking, all the tracking and monitoring and evaluation goes into our reporting that we do annually, and then we use stories and pictures to also get to monitor it as well. So everything goes into that document of annual report.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yes, I love it. I just love again how you enlighten. I love the point around. Of course, we all know that we all have to, as social enterprises and NGO leaders, We have to curate our impact reports, curate our annual reports. But I love the emphasis on telling stories through pictures. And now you just, highlighted this point with that example of taking the picture of the malnourished child, and months later, is taking the picture of that same child with a well weight gain. The picture speaks, volume by itself, not too much, and people can see that this is real life impact being made. So thank you so much, Dr. Michael, once again.
Mm-hmm. Very
So
well.
this takes me deeper, or we want to dive deeper into how we can collaborate for change, especially in driving community engagement. And we know that when you're engaging diverse people, people from different backgrounds, especially within your volunteer teams and even internal and external stakeholders, there are certain values and belief systems that should be taken into cognizance. So I wanted to share with us what values and belief systems should be upheld in driving sustainable collaborations and community engagement.
Okay, so for in terms of values, right, belief systems, these are very fundamental to the sustainability of any organization, driving collaborations, partnerships. Um, there has to be. I tell my team members and the people I come across with, development leaders, like we have to be known for something, right? We have to stand for something. We have to, albeit even if it's not convenient or it's not, but even if we're standing alone on that thing, we must stand confidently and stand for that thing and let us be known for it, right? So for me, value systems are important in terms of, um, for instance, for an average organization, the currency we deal with is the currency of trust. Once
Yes.
that trust is gone, both at the community level, and let me start from here. You see, beneficiaries, because maybe they are vulnerable, they are at the edge, at the receiving end of whatever you want to give to them. Um, there's a tendency for them to be taken for granted, right? Oh, we are coming on so day. Oh, we have so, and then you just change the dates. The fiber of trust is lost because there's a tendency for them not to trust or believe,
It's lost.
and then they say, oh, we've seen this before. They say they want to, they don't get to see anything. They say, no, we are different. And then over time, you see that you cannot get what you want to do done without the beneficiary. So they should be treated as part of, even as your corporate organization or the way you treat your board. With important,
Yes.
never fail your promise to them. So the value of coming through with our commitments, right, to them is
Yes.
important. Of course, values of transparency, um, and standards as well. Excellence, it's very key, is important.
Yes.
The work we do is something without gate and all of that, but we still try as much as possible to put standards and controls in place and for to ensure that we're an organization that we have values, value
Yes.
system that we work with, that drives us as an organization. So as you come in to join us as an organization of this thing, we have our pledge as well that we recite at every gathering. And this pledge is to
Yes. I
have
love it.
our people imbibe this sense of commitment towards the impact they are making in their community. Like you are in and you know that you are giving your time, you are giving your resources, you are giving everything to serve your community. And as they recite the
Yes.
pledge, you know, there's more form sense of commitment. So the values, I can go on and on to talk about this whole value system thing and all of that. But
Yes.
one key thing is that there has to be a why. You know, there has to be the
Yes.
reason why you are doing something. And we make that known all the time. What is your why? Why did you join us? Why are you being part of it? Why we communicate
Yes.
our why from time to time, why we are here. So they are all important factors that drive an organization. Even as the founder, you are no longer there. Those values will continue to be there and they continue to drive
Yes.
the organization.
Very powerful insights. I just love again how you're lighting the importance of ensuring that all stakeholders matter. So in driving your values, you're not you're taking into consideration all stakeholders, and more importantly, what undergirds that is an understanding, or the fundamental understanding of your why, and communicating that why from time to time to your stakeholders. I love how you highlighted the part of the pledge, that as volunteers come on board, they also get to recite those pledges, not just even when they're coming on board, but when you are at different programs. Before
Yeah.
you kickstart the program, they recite those pledges. So it's just a reenactment of their commitment to the mission, which is so powerful. And that takes me to my next question. So I would want us to just share with us in brief um, how your what your volunteer engagement model looks like, and your stand, because you sort of shared a little bit about it, but in terms of the model that you've deployed and has worked for you, we would love to just take a sneak peek into that model, and you sharing with us what model you have put in place and how you've been able to sustain that model in the last 7 years.
Okay. Um, of course, volunteer engagement is something I would, of course, maybe some other time want to dive more into, and of course, I'll be happy to do that, right? But just in a very briefly, right?
Yes.
There are several factors or model that we use in engaging volunteers. First is that is issue of value. Now, what we are expecting value from them, and then we also give value back, right? And all we see is just exchange of value, simple. No money is involved, because
Exactly.
anything volunteering for us does not involve money, right? So the thing is, there is the volunteers commit to giving their time, right? And then there's a process in place that captures the time, that captures their involvement, and it translates into maybe the need for referencing or certificates and all of that, that shows that they actually serve their community, right? That is
Serving with
number
you.
one, right? So two is
Yeah.
for the fact that volunteers, when they come in on board, there are there are outlined activities that volunteers get involved in, right? So we ensure that if you say you need volunteers, there must be activities. There have to be active involvement. Their active involvement in what you're doing, and at the end of the day, when they leave, they come and go. There should be a sense of fulfillment that I've done something for people, or through an organization to impact people. So that is key. Outlined activities, um, values in terms of what we give back to them. Recognition is also very key, in the sense that
Yes.
there are volunteers who are going above and beyond. We organize different forms of we organize like International Volunteers Day, for instance. We do it
Yes.
yearly. We give awards on those days. We go on a getaway. We do outreach, and then we have fun as well, party and all of that. It's a community we are building, and everybody knows that the Lagos Urban Volunteer Community is a movement. So it's something that everybody wants to be part of, what is bigger than them, and then that gives us sense of community that we've been able to create. So it's a form of engagement and outlined activities that ensures that nobody gets bored and they feel like coming back to offer their value, basically.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. Very powerful insights shared again. I just love, running us through the power of shared commitment, the power of shared values, and the power again of recognition, rewards, and recognition. This rewards, in this sense, as you've highlighted, does not have to be monetary, but it's just that exchange of value, and really which communicates and enables them step into that sense of fulfillment. Very powerful insight shared. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. So I want to ask this question, because I know that even at Lagos Food Bank Initiative, whilst you were building these organizations, and even as you're trying to scale across other regions of Lagos, other regions within Nigeria, and I know you're seeking to even scale across Africa and the world, you are faced setbacks, you are faced challenges, in either meeting set expectations, set goals for the year, or even in collaborating for change. So I wanted to share with us how you have surmounted these setbacks and challenges, what some of these challenges look like and how you've surmounted them over the years.
Okay. So the I will still go back to the why thing, right? There has to be a sense of why to everything. And that sense of why is what keeps you going in the face of setbacks, in the face of disappointment, in the face of all kinds of challenges, right? You must know why you are doing what you're doing, right? And the why has to be strong, because if the why is not strong, there's a tendency to give up. Okay. So for me, what I'm doing is tied to my own childhood experience, right? We didn't have that
Powerful.
much access to, food growing up.
Mm,
So it's for me, it's what I've experienced firsthand, and I can put myself in the shoes of those that are going through similar challenges,
mm,
right? The fact that they come out and they queue for this food, and it shows that there is need for it.
mm,
So when we now face challenges, it's the attitude towards such challenges. If it's about rejection, it's a lot.
mm,
If it's about setback, it's a whole lot of them that you even have to sit down, that what exactly am I doing, right? And what I've realized is that for each setback, for each disappointment, we just go back to the drawing board. There's something we are not doing right, you
mm,
know. And then you can see that what started as maybe, for instance, a food distribution program evolved into a nutrition program for malnourished children, evolved into a school feeding program for those
yeah.
for food insecure students. We evolved into a backyard farming program, right? Evolved into a needs program for people with diet related diseases, and then a food bank network. So for each time we try to do something and we are not getting that, like we feel limited, and as a result of disappointment or failure or setback, we see what can we do differently to ensure that we have a multidimensional or a multifaceted approach to this problem that we want to solve. If we were not getting those setbacks, if we're not seeing those disappointments, we won't want to be a all round to make sure that wherever it is you are coming for, is it an organization that said that, oh, we are about just education? We have a program tailored for you. Oh, we
Mm,
just are interested in farming. Oh, we have program tailored for you. Oh, we are interested in just training. We have the job placement program for our beneficiaries.
mm,
We have that for you. So it was as a result of different form of setback and rejections but as we experience it, we go back to the drawing board and learn from it, and not get discouraged or depressed or demotivated, right? But
demotivated.
ensure that we learn from it and then grow. And those we are happy that we had those rejections, because today now some of these partnerships are based on some programs alone, and some will say we are not interested in your food distribution, we are interested in this particular one, right? And then they will get funding for it. So um it's a learning curve, and we continue to learn,
Yes.
and but we must also learn from our setbacks.
I love it. I love it. I just love again how you have communicated to us that conversion. Every setback and challenge that you came across or hit the organization was an opportunity to go back to the drawing board, and even as a result of those setbacks, develop solutions, that is multifaceted. So anyone or any organization comes or seeks interest to partner with you, there is no solution in relation to solving hunger issues or solving food poverty that you do not currently run or have a solution in place for. But it was as a result of those rejections you got, oh, sorry, we don't do this. And then you have to sit back and say, yeah, we can actually develop this. And that, became like an engineering room or space for the birthing of very innovative solutions. And that is so insightful to say that these setbacks and challenges are also raw materials. So we shouldn't despise them. We should actually just see them as raw materials that can be converted into usable resources in the long
Sure.
run. So
Very
very
well.
powerful insight shared with us, Dr. Michael. So I also wanted to find, just before we round up, we're getting off, moving on quickly, or in a subtle way to rounding off this very insightful session. But I would just like to ask this penultimate question. And exactly, okay, we have a comment here. Someone is saying this is actually a reorientation for food bank volunteers. Thank you so much, Olawuwo, for that feedback. All right, so the question will be around, of course, community engagement, collaborating for change. And of course, I know you already are delved into the different levels of collaborations. But again, still just taking a deeper dive into this issue of challenges and setbacks, even at the level of driving community engagement, you have encountered a lot of challenges in that regard.
Okay.
So I want you to just share with us some of these challenges and how you surmounted them, especially interacting with beneficiaries, interacting with, beneficiaries at community levels, grassroots levels, even collaborating with international development agencies. How were you able to surmount these setbacks at this level, especially in driving community engagement and sustainable collaboration?
Okay, good. So at the grassroots level, right? I've heard a number of comments from different development leaders, NGO founders, like, oh, one of the things that get to discourage them the most is you want to help people, and they are the same set of people giving you problems. Some people cannot just marry it like, I want to help you, and then you are giving me a headache. Don't give me a
Eddie.
headache because I want to help you, but it's the ability to sift, right, the target people, and then the people that are actually giving the problem, who in
Problem.
quote or are supposedly speaking or acting on behalf of the people in their community,
Yeah.
and most of the time is not the case. So the ability to be able to deal with them at that level, there are instances we've seen where community leaders are the ones that would want to foment trouble,
Trouble.
going outside and understanding that we've had, to make things work. We have different factions of of youth leaders who just come up and want to foment trouble. We've seen situations where you know and some of these community leaders of course become very recalcitrant, and they don't just see the sense in what you are doing. And
Right.
but one must be able to deal with them in such a way that focus on the, of course, people, and then give what belongs to Caesar to Caesar. If it requires, begging them, talking to them at that point, giving them some incentives so that you can go do what you have to do, it has to be done. So they are key stakeholders, and then they have to be factored in. You can't say you want to reach the people there and then say, no, you are not my own target, but they won't stop you. There are gates, you have to pass through them,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we understand at that level, right? And then for community, for development leaders, development and partners, multilateral organizations, and some of these. Yeah, I would say we've had challenges, but it's just what we kind of just say is that sometimes, if you want something, you also have to be ready for it. Some of working with some of these development partners and multilateral relations, the demands that come with partnership with them is enormous, right? That it kind of drains, it can actually drain the life out of you, different forms of, reporting, and the amount of time you spend managing their partnership, you can dedicate two manpower, two staff to it exactly that, you can just imagine, and then the amount, what you have to meet per time, and, so, but the thing is, um, every organization, of course, there's no, you need the funds, so you have to do what is required of you to
Yes.
to achieve it, right? And then meet those requirements and ensure that you continue to operate with transparency, and then stay true to your vision, stay true to your mission, and remain focused, basically. And as we do this, there are several opportunities, and like I always tell, you know, uh, development leaders, that there are a lot of opportunities out there. There are so many. There are organizations that they want to meet their funding targets, right? And they are looking for credible organizations to work with. But you must have gained traction. For you to gain traction, there has to be consistency. For there to be consistency, that's what will put you in that light for you to, they can
Right.
see that you have the competence to implement, and then there's traction already. So it's important that we, continue to stay focused, stay true to it, and then those the preparedness, are we prepared for them, right? And that
I love it.
preparedness is what brings those opportunities. So at every time we have to stay prepared, like prepared, and I need this. They always ask for different things, and be ready to give it to them, not trying to prepare it at that point because they know. Okay. Very well. Yeah.
Very powerful insights. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Michael. I love how you're again emphasizing that the power of transparency. You have to be transparent as an organization and also be prepared for opportunities. So you're seeking to collaborate at diverse levels with key stakeholders, other development organizations, and even partner with international organizations or international development agencies and corporate organizations. You must be prepared for these opportunities. And that's why that point where we spoke about monitoring and documenting your impact, by telling the stories of your impact, documenting it in your annual report, and ensuring these critical reports are ready, so that once the opportunities rear their heads, you can definitely leverage them. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael, once again. So,
Very well.
our
Thank
final
you.
question in just rounding up this very great session, I wanted to share your advice to social enterprises and NGO leaders, social entrepreneurs, development practitioners, development professionals, um, every key stakeholder, impact-driven professionals who are seeking opportunities to drive community engagement and also drive sustainable collaborations. What will your advice be to them? Just share your advice with us and your final words.
Okay. So the advice I'm going to, my advice basically is nothing out of what I've said before, but just to put them in perspective. So they we of course have to, continue to stay true to our mission and vision, because that is the why for us. And secondly, we have to be the non-profit space or the social enterprise space can be conservative, right? But the point is we have to go out of that box of being too conservative, right? And look at um what can put us out there, right? And for every point in time, it is what we are able to showcase, that is what we put out there, that people see. At every point in time, I tell my team members, if whatever it is that you are doing that you cannot communicate, right, you it's a minus for you, right? So every member of the team, adds this sense of communication to whatever it is they are doing. So it must be communicated, right? So communication, both using all forms of avenues, social media,
Yes.
engage a whole lot of things. And someone asked, "Does NGO do adverts?" And I say, yes. Why won't you do advert, for goodness sake?
Yes.
But you do the social media is there. There's advert on LinkedIn. There's adverts on Instagram, on Facebook. And have a budget for it, because at that point people get to see you, and then of course, and then we just ensure that we continue to evolving. If you're at a particular point, know that that is not where you continue to evolve, and see things and watch things transform, basically. And that's my token.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. Indeed, this session has been worth it. Thank you very much for bringing your essence, bringing your excellence, bringing everything that you stand for to the table, and even sharing pragmatically from your experiences. We have curated a lot of life lessons just listening to you share with us today on community engagement, collaborating for change. And I know all of our change makers, community members, valued community members tuned in today can attest to this. Of course, I just love your final words, highlighting the importance of evolution, the importance of growth, the importance of consistently growing and developing. And that's why, even with the work that we do at Ideation of Africa, we are offering this opportunity to continually reorientating, educating, enlightening our community members, about critical elements that are important to driving sustainable development, across any community or across nations. And that's why we are even offering the social impact webinar totally free to community members, just to have as many persons connect and just get insights that could move the organizations and even position them as much more impactful change makers across any arena that they are functioning in. And that's why I would make this call to everyone. Everyone who probably is tuned in at this time would know that we run a school called the Social Innovation School, and we would definitely implore you to make our time to go through the courses in the school. The school provides you a practical, robust curriculum, of insights that are relative to the African continent. And we have had, seasoned faculty members grace the school across different seasoned faculty members with years of experience across different parts of not just Nigeria, but across different parts of Africa. So I would implore you and encourage you to just use the link that is scrolling on the screen and just take a sneak peek, take a look, take a tour through the school. And I can bet it with you, there are courses very affordable. As I said, we're just giving everything literally for free, very affordable. You can definitely just take a course for as low as 5,000 naira. And some of you solve the internet with 5,000 naira, almost maybe three or four times monthly. But when you are desirous of really birthing change, transformative change, you must take your passion to school. And that's what we're literally encouraging you to do. Thank you to all of our community members, change makers. I know there are also community members from the Lagos Food Bank Initiative. So I'm doing that shout out to them as well. Members of the Lagos Food Bank Initiative, thank you for joining in today as well, to be a part of the webinar. And indeed, it's been very, very insightful. Thank you once again, Dr. Michael. Is there a way any of our Changemakers could connect with you? If they desire to connect with you, could you just share means through which they can connect with you?
Okay. Do I type or how
No,
do
you can
I?
just say it out loud. Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, on Instagram, my Instagram is open. You can send me a direct message, Michael Sunbola.
Message. Okay.
Yeah, direct message on Instagram. I of course would respond. I'm very active on Instagram. So just type Michael Sunbola on. It's not private page. So just send me a direct message. I'll respond to you.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. To everyone, shout out to everyone who stayed through till the end. We look forward to having you join us at the next edition of the Social Impact Webinar. We have a lot of very awesome programs coming up, so keep your fingers crossed. Definitely also follow us if you're not following us across our social media platforms. Just type Ideation of Africa across LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow us, subscribe to our newsletters so that you can keep abreast of all of the awesome things we have in store for you. Thank you to everyone, and thank you once again to Dr. Michael for joining us this afternoon. To everyone, we say bye and see you at the next edition of the Social Impact Webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.